years later, Georgia, you're the first female to lead a power plant, right? In the United States, a power plant, leading it. And this was in 1983. And the only other female there was the secretary.
Right.
Right. So I want to share something with the listeners before you tell us about the experience, because here's what you said about that time to me. You said everyone was betting against me. I had people put $100 bills in betting pools at corporate headquarters that I wouldn't get the unit online during a power shortage. I mean, it was just insane, the pressure. But I'll tell you something, I came out of there and there's nothing I feared after that. That's what you said at the time. Can you tell us about it?
It was amazing. There was so much visibility and so much scrutiny because I was the first. I also wasn't an engineer and I didn't grow up in a power plant. But what I did have was a lot of leadership experience. And you'll remember I was an advocate on the human resources side. And so, I had been in the generation side of the business and I'd done my homework. I learned about plants. I'd go crawl through boilers. I just was fascinated with this power plant and how it worked. And I had a couple of people that helped teach me, and I'd say, please take me with you. And so what ended up happening is they had 3 plant managers retire at the same time, 2 of them unexpectedly. And my boss said, so what do you think? And I said, I want the chance. So we made this deal that at the end of 1 year, either I could bail out if it was too miserable, or they could pull me out if I wasn't doing well. Mm-hmm. And I go off down to this generating station, and then all hell broke loose because the chairman of the board hadn't been advised, and he thought girls should never be in charge of a power plant. So he went into this rage and he sent a helicopter to land in the parking lot of the power plant with 5 expert guys on power plants to run me around the plant in the control room to test me on whether I knew what I was doing. Mm. And I passed the test. The other thing was the resentment that a lot of the men had. You're right. There was just myself and the secretary were the only 2 women. And so this wasn't a situation where people were accustomed to seeing women there. And so one supervisor walked in and he said, I will not work for a woman. I won't do it. And I said, well, I'm not leaving. So you either vote with your feet or you get used to it. And he left a 25-year career behind.
In that moment, he left?
That moment, he walked out and he never returned.
Wow. Did you ever talk to him years later or anything? Did he ever follow up with you?
I don't know what happened to him. He left the company, right? But it was really a shock. I mean, it was incredible, even down to one of the major electrical suppliers. They sent cheese to all the plant managers. That was their habit at the holiday. And they called me one day and they said, can we have your husband's name? And I said, why? And they said, well, because we don't send cheese to women. And I'm like,
they had to send it to your husband, right?
Keep your cheese, right? Yes. And so what happened is they sent it to my house. It was addressed to Mr. George Nelson. Which is like one of my favorite memories. But, it was really hard. I really felt like I was up against all odds. I had a tough learning curve. I had a lot of people wishing I would fail. And I had a lot of visibility. So it really did strengthen me. It was kind of like, okay, I took that plant from the lowest performing plant to the highest performing plant. And, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah. Now, you have served on 9 corporate boards. Many listeners may already know this. A board of directors interacts quite a bit with companies' leadership and serves a very important governance role. I'd love to know what your proudest moments are in this, Georgia. You told me once what it means to be on a board. You said it means I can speak the truth. It means forcing people to look at things in a fair way. And I feel so strongly that women and people of color have these assumptions around them that it requires someone to balance the discussion. And I think I know how to do that. So as the voice of truth, share your proudest moments.
Well, I'll pick one. One of the most important things that a board does is CEO selection.
Mhm.
And so we were in the final discussion phase. I was the only woman on this particular board. It was some years ago, and there was a male and a female candidate, and it's just a perfect example. So when they were discussing the male, they said, "Wow, he picked the best team. He knew how to identify talent. They succeeded in what they did in his business. This is the kind of guy we need to be CEO because he knows how to surround himself with really top-notch talent and how to use it." Fast forward to the discussion around the woman candidate was, well, I don't know if we could give her credit really for accomplishments because it really was her team. I mean, look at the team she had.
Wow.
So it was probably because of them, not because of her.
Mhm.
And of course, now both this discussion was well intentioned, you can tell, right? And of course, I stepped back and said, whoa, wait a minute. How can this be such an amazing accomplishment for this man and be such a detractor for this woman? Why aren't we using the same language here? That she knew how to pick this team, that she knew how to use this team, she knew how to lead this team. I mean, there was this silence, right? Because the contradiction becomes very apparent. And it's those moments that matter, that there's a woman or an other diverse person in the room that can say, wait, right? Just wait a
Yeah.
minute.